ceasefire and humanitarian aid. The meeting, hosted by Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, brings together top diplomats from Indonesia, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. During the meet, Hakan Fidan said Palestinians must govern their own land and ensure their own security, stressing that Israel must stop violating the Gaza ceasefire and allow full humanitarian aid access. Fidan further stated that Turkey is ready to do whatever is necessary for peace, but a clear and agreeable framework must first be established. He added that countries will decide on contributing troops to an international stabilization force, depending on its definition and parameters. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan, meanwhile, says Muslim nations must play a leading role in Gaza's reconstruction, accusing Israel of blocking recovery efforts. The Istanbul talks follow a September meeting with US President Donald Trump in New York, where leaders backed an Arab League OIC plan for Gaza's reconstruction and long-term stability. Now joining us on the programme to discuss this meeting is Hamad Nadarian. He's a journalist and Middle East affairs analyst, and he joins us live from the Iranian capital of Tehran. Thank you very much for joining us here on the programme, Hamad. Of course, Turkey's relationship with Israel is complicated, and that, along with balancing this seemingly very positive relationship that Turkey's leader, President Erdoğan, has with Donald Trump. How would you analyse Turkey's role here, the possibilities of it being part of this international force governing Gaza, and of course reasons why the Israelis might not want that?
Hello, I'm very glad to be talking to you again. Well, as you just stated, there is this conference underway in Turkey on reconstruction of Gaza. The fact of the matter is that since, let's say, early October, when this agreement was signed between Hamas and the Israeli regime, it was pretty historic in nature. I've said this before, and it cannot simply be denied because, you know, the concessions that were given on the part of Hamas were quite historic, quite rare and unique. It agreed to hand over the captives, whether living or deceased, and also quite unprecedentedly hand over Gaza's governance, administration to a Palestinian technocratic body. But the fact is, a couple of days, and let's say within 2 weeks of inking the accord, the Israeli regime began egregious violations of the ceasefire. So far, it has claimed the lives of more than 200 Palestinians, including many women and children. So the genocidal pattern persists. And the fact of the matter is that even if Turkey and those participating in the conference manage to get some leverage, it's like apply some influence upon the United States, which is, you know, everyone knows that it's like, you know, the Israeli regime's biggest ally, biggest historic ally. It's finally, ultimately up to Tel Aviv itself, and of course up to Washington, because there is so much influence that Washington can apply on the Israeli regime. And I don't think that if the regime decides against, you know, doing things differently, breaking course in the same fashion that it has been doing, you know, as long as I can remember, over decades, practically since 1948, things can happen, reconstruction can happen. So there is so much influence that Turkey, Indonesia, Qatar, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates, the participants in this conference, can apply. And I believe that it's ultimately up to Tel Aviv. The fact that these countries actually participated in the efforts that led to conclusion of the agreement, for example, each country applying its or playing its role and applying the pressure that it could on Hamas was quite great. It was a multilateral agreement. Lots of forces coming together, but still, I say there is so much influence that they can exert upon Hamas and upon the overall situation, the overall picture.
Okay, Hamad, just briefly, because we're running out of time. Iran, of course, has voiced scepticism over Western-led reconstruction initiatives. From Tehran's perspective, what guarantees would make such a plan more credible? Just very briefly, please.
I told you, it's like over the past decades, since Israel's creation, the thing that has not been compromised upon has been Israel's ambitions. So whenever it comes to Israel's ambitions, the West has always backed down. So eventually, I think even the West has got so much leverage with so much clout with Israel, and the Iranian side is, I think, it's quite correct to be skeptical about what's going to happen, about the immediate prospects.
Hamad Nadarian, thank you very much for joining us here in NewsX World. Pleasure to get your insight on that topic.